Alright, we're back again. So, working with the aluminum tubing, I've gone ahead and started on the landing gear legs. This is the left wing. Looking at the airplane from the front is how I marked it. Looking at the wing from the leading edge toward the trailing edge. This would be the one on the left. And so this is just the very beginning of the process here. These landing gear are pretty involved, but we have the cross member here. We have the axle through the wheel. It will turn, but it's a little stiff. It doesn't turn real well, but that's fine for me. I don't want it sailing off of a shelf or desktop. And then I've drilled out these drilled out the holes to receive the pins. So again, this is the axle pin is just a repeat of this pin. So because we're parallel here and here, because we have an adequate diameter to run through the wheel and use as an axle, so I just figured we'd go ahead and use the same material as the for the axle. And this should just drop into one of these holes, and then and then a little bit of outward pressure on the axle should get the other one to pop in. And there you go, the wheel's installed. Obviously I'll be using just a couple of drops of epoxy resin as a cement to hold the axle in place. It'll hold it more permanently and probably more durably than the super glue would do. So we'll use the epoxy resin on these two contacts here and here. Okay, so this is just the beginning of the landing gear assembly, and I'll show you a little bit about what I'm doing here. So the small sections are cut from the tubing. You always start with the finest, smallest diameter first, and that's the main portion of the landing gear leg. The next size you want to use is the size that make up these smaller collars, and instead of 2, you're going to make 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you go to the next size, next diameter, and sleeve over the top and bottom, and then to the third overlapping size. In this case, that's the 11 material, I believe. Let me see. We're starting with 1108, 1109, 1110, and 1111 would be this diameter, I guess, is what I'm saying. This is the final sleeve over the top collar. I'm starting to drill it out just now to receive the top cross member, and so we just need to file it out. After you cut this material, there's lots of roughage and duffage around the edges, and you just have to kind of clean that off. You want to round these edges a little bit, make these look like collars and not like sawed off aluminum cans, which is essentially what they are, but you don't want them to look like that. You want them to look like milled aluminum collars. And then you just want to make sure they fit over as they should. We've got to do a little more filing here. Alright, so let's keep working on this. And again, these jeweler files, not expensive, one of only a handful of tools that you really need to do this hobby, build these things. It doesn't take much, as I've talked about in other videos. I mean, you can go and buy a lathe and the little hobby jigsaws and bandsaw and all that stuff, but you don't need to. So the way I start this is I just take the X-Acto blade, find the center, make a dimple, use a pin vise with a pin drill, and just start drilling. Find the location of your divot, and then just drill it out, and then go. That's your pilot hole using the pin vise. Doesn't matter what size it is, just ultra fine pin, a drill bit, and then come back with the size that'll accept just a slightly larger diameter than what you're going to use for an axle. place it into the pilot hole that you cut, and hog it out. Now to get these straight and level on the landing gear, I'll show you what I do. I mean, it's no big trick, it's just what I do to make sure they're straight and level. So these take a minute to cure, even with the super glue, because it's aluminum and it's so slick. It takes a minute for this stuff to crystallize, and that's what gives it the fit, cements it in place, if you will. It's just that I'll get out on the inside now. It just, when it crystallizes, creates a friction fit. It's not really bonding anything, but it works just as well. Okay, so I've gone ahead and started the first leg. We just do the top. Once we have the top located, we can go ahead and cement the legs on. So I'm going to do that. Yeah, see if I make sure I can come on here from the bottom. Yeah, we can come on from the bottom. Okay, so before I set that with the hole drilled in it, because that hole has to be oriented and level with this one, we're just going to go ahead and slide this on and glue it up. And so it doesn't matter which way it's oriented, we're just gluing it all the way to the top. So that's the one thing you just have to make sure of. Now when I do this, I run the bead along the full length of the steel piano wire core, and then as we slide this up, we just keep spinning it, and that make sure we get a nice even adhesive distribution inside that leg. So when it knits up, it'll knit up the whole length. It's not just going to tack in one spot. It's going to adhere to that thing pretty good along the full length of the tubing. And I just want to check this thing and make sure I put that hole in the center of the part, and it looks like I did. Between the top and the bottom, that thing looks like it's pretty well centered. So now you just want to come up in here, rotate it around to the inside, and don't apply any adhesive just yet, because what you're going to do is make a cross member and put it in there and orient it with the cross member in place so that you can see that it's level. And you can see that it's aligned with everything else. Okie dokie, so let me file this off real quick. There's a bit of a rough edge still on this from when I cut it off. I'll make sure this fits on both ends. I want to try to fit it in there. Alright, so we're just going to do the thing with the stuff and make this work. So I'm going to pop that into the hole on the other side there. Line it up across here with this piece and mark it just a little bit long. If it's too long, we'll use the file to bring it back around. So we've got it marked, now we just need to cut it. Let's see, if I drop it into this last opening here, that should pin it in pretty good. I hope I've got enough battery life in that camera to get where we're going here. Alright. Pretty well through that all the way. Up into the cut. Good enough. Alright, I'm going to clean that up. Now what did I do? like something happened here. I'm not sure what. Oh, here you are. Okay. I thought this was the other one. Anyway, all right. Now we can line it up. Hopefully, if it's not too long. Oh, that should work. Let's see. It's just a skosh long. All right. I was afraid of that. If I cut it long, it's going to take me a while to resize it. It might take us through the remaining battery life on our GoPro. So now the other thing I can do. Well, let's just see where we are. It into the fixed side, grab it in here and see if I can rotate this through. It's just going to be too long. Okay, we cut it. Well, no, there she goes. All right, I got it. Okay, so now that I have it in there, you can see that if I leave it in this position, it's going to be offset this way. So we just have to slide that down just a touch until we have a nice straight line. But that may or may not be a straight line, so let's find out. Looks a little low. Let's try it this way. Now that looks better. Alright, so we could probably fix it there and be fine. Now we check it this way. We want to make sure that it's not doing this. And it looks like it's in a straight line there. Alright. Everything looks pretty straight. Checking it against the grid, it looks pretty straight. So I'm going to go ahead and tack that in right there. All right. We can tack. Let's do it this way. All right, that ought to hold everything for the time being. And we've got the upper cross member. And compare it to the other gear. Looks just about right. Okay. Anyway, that's what we're doing, and that's how I do it with the with the aluminum tubing. And it just, I mean, for this kit anyway, I think it just looks a hell of a lot better than it would if we were using the plastic parts at the vacuum formed landing gear legs. They're just too oversized, too chunky. Don't quite fit the scale. So I've got two more of these small pins, or small collars, and we'll arrange them on here just as these are. So we've got these two here, and I'll just line up two more on this side in parallel with those. And then I'll have to cut two more for the bottom So on the bottom I'm just using this diameter, the small or next size up from the main, and then a sleeve a collar over that, and that's the collar that I'm drilling out. I'm not going with 3 collars, in other words, I'm just going with 2 down here. And that's in keeping with the illustrations and the images that I have, the photographs that I have. Aircraft has a much more robust section at the top than at the axle. And so that's what we're going to reproduce, is that look. There's so much more work to do on these gear. I'll have to break it up into a couple of different videos. So anyway, I thought I'd talk about this and how I'm going about the landing gear on this project, so that you could see for yourself. Working with the aluminum tubing is not hard at all. You just have to measure and cut and clean the parts, just as you do with most of the work that you're going to be doing on any model kit anyway. So it's no big deal. The aluminum tubing is not expensive. This stuff is a couple bucks for a 3-foot length typically, and you can get it online. Precision Metals, KNS Precision Metals. It's a United States product. It's made right here. It's not an imported item. If you feel strongly about imported or domestic produce, domestic production, this metal is made in America. Guillow is an American company, so you know, we're keeping things home-based around here for now. All right, so you can see that, like I said, it's not hard to do. You just take your time and do stuff, and it adds a little extra detail that, you know, can look a lot better than the kit parts that are provided. Not to knock them, you know, they provide the parts for you in that vacuum